colleagues at CBS 3 and KYW News Radio, I'd like to welcome you to our broadcast facilities. This is the CBS Broadcast Center. We've actually been in this building since 2007. Are any of you former KYW employees? Yeah. We're good for you. Okay, very good, very good. We moved into this facility in 2007. Prior to this, we were at Fifth and Market, which is now the home of the Jewish Museum. Our lease was up there, and rather than retrofit the building to broadcast in high definition, it was more economical for the station to be moved, and that's why we moved here. But we've been here since 2007. This is the first broadcast facility in the world to be built from the ground up to shoot and broadcast in high definition. So when we moved in here, it was a whole new ballgame. For those of you that aren't aware, KYW is a station of firsts. We are actually the first television station in Philadelphia, and we're the third oldest television station in the country. It was actually started in 1932 as an experimental station for Philco, and the only people that could watch the station were the engineers, about 100 of them. We are the third oldest commercial station in the country. Originally, again, started by Philco, but we eventually moved along and we were owned by NBC. So we were an O&O after the New York market. Philadelphia is the third largest television market, fourth largest television market in the country. It's all based on population. So New York's number one, LA's number two, Chicago's number three, we're number four. There are approximately about 2.3 million homes, viewing homes in the Philadelphia area, almost 7 million people if everybody were to watch television at the same exact time. So when we moved into this facility, we basically took up the entire 6th floor of the GlaxoSmithKline. When you first came in, did you notice that they have the sky deck out there? That's where Kathy Orr and the weather team does their weather from. But a lot of thought was put into this facility. So right behind you here, we're going to walk along this wall here. This is what's known as our master control. This is the brain of the TV station. And it's behind bulletproof glass. Because if you get behind there, you can take control of the TV station. Even my ID card does not allow me to get in there unless I call in advance or they see me outside. Because if we get in there, we can take control of the television station. 5 seconds later, you'll see it if you're over the air outside in the world, or 10 seconds later on cable. We run 2 television stations from here. On the left-hand side is the CW Philly. On the right-hand side, where you see The Price is Right, is CBS 3. All of our commercials are run out of here. This is where we do the toss over to network programming. So when Chris and Jessica at 6:29:50 say, next up is the evening news with Scott Pelley, we turn it over to New York. That's why everything has to be timed perfectly. There are about 150 miles worth of cable in this building. This was a $40 million operation, and that's after several budget cuts. So inside here, we run all the commercials. Everything's redundant. So if one machine shuts down for whatever reason, another one will pick up. Because you don't run a commercial, that means I don't get paid, and my mortgage doesn't get paid. So we don't like that. So anyway, but this is pretty much the brains of the operation. We're going to start heading down here. Along the wall, when we walk down this hallway, you'll see a number of photos. Joanne Calabria, our Director of Communications, has done an amazing job trying to keep the history of the station. This plaque here on the wall was originally in our old building because Mike Douglas started his talk show in Philadelphia. So this was outside of Studio A. We're in Fifth and Market. Here we have acknowledgement from the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers talking about the fact that this was the first television station in the world to be built from the ground up to broadcast in high def and also shoot in high def. If you want to come in here for a minute. Hello. We're doing a quick tour. We've got 2 groups. So if you just want to funnel back here. So the room with the bulletproof glass is our master control. This is our newsroom control room, if you just want to kind of slide over here. This is where all the action takes place. This is where they direct our newscasts. When we go into the newsroom a little later on, I'll talk a little bit. You can keep on squeezing in. We've got plenty of room here. I'll talk a little bit about the dynamics of the show. But the 2 key things you need to realize is the producer is responsible for the editorial content of the show. What story is where in the show, how long the stories run. The director, and this is Lisa, is responsible for the visual look of the show. Which camera shots are taken, which angles, what graphics, how the graphics appear. This is a very calm place, believe it or not. It's not like you would see sometimes in the movies where people are yelling and screaming. That's because most of our directors that work at this station have been in the business for a minimum of 20 years. So a plane can crash, we will be on the air shortly afterwards, and everyone is very calm in here until management arrives, and then sometimes the screaming begins. But otherwise, the employees, we're all fine on our own. But the interesting thing is, the electronics have taken over. Lisa is sitting at what I call the cockpit. Pretty much she is the captain of a ship, and the ship is on a plane, and she's in charge, but autopilot is basically on. Before she comes into this room, everything is preloaded into our computer system, so the computer takes over. It tells, if you put in take camera 1 for this story, well, camera 1's going to go on whether you like it or not. It's part of the dynamics of cost saving in the industry. We used to have photographers and camera people that were in the studio. We no longer have them. All of our cameras are robotic. So it really is. They're replacing people with technology, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. The problem is if you code the wrong information into the computer and you say that a story coming up doesn't need any kind of a microphone, well, the microphone's not going to go on unless the computer doesn't know. So along the top here, the old monitors, you see we watch our competition. CBS, we have ABC, NBC, Fox, PSG, Philly, and all the others. These are all high-definition screens. The director will sit here. Technical director sits over here. And then the producer of the show sits in the back row. And again, they're responsible for the timing of the show. If each of the reporters say our stories run 10 seconds extra, you're thinking, 10 seconds, what's the heck? Well, if you have 6 reporters, that's a minute at the end of the show. They've got to get rid of a minute worth of content by the end of the show. Otherwise, we're going to have nowhere to go. So a lot of times if you ever watch TV and all of a sudden they're in the middle of the sentence saying, goodbye, we'll see you, and it goes off, someone didn't time that show properly. You'll notice also here there's a little red phone. This is the bat phone. If the producer needs to reach out to the anchors on the set, or they need to call in and they can't open their mic, maybe the anchor next to them is speaking, they'll call on the bat phone. It will just ring in here and they'll speak to them as well. All of the people, for the most part, the producers and the directors here, this is at least their 3rd or 4th job. Most of them have 20 plus years experience. If you go into a small market and there's breaking news, there's usually chaos in the control room. Here, everything is just very calm because we've all done it. We all lived through 9/11. Many of us in this building. So it's like if you can carry, newscasts like that for days and days and days, nothing can really shock us. So we're going to go outside and down the hallway into our newsroom. We have 2 control rooms. This is our main control room, and this is our backup one that we use mostly if we're doing kind of special events or stuff like that. You can look along the wall here. This is some of our historical photos that Joanne was able to salvage. KYW-TV is the first television station in the country to broadcast live from a sporting event. We were the first ones in the market to broadcast in color. We were the first to broadcast live from a political convention. These are the more contemporary shots. You see Larry Kane here. How many of you remember when we made the switch in the mid-90s from NBC to CBS? Half of our audience still can't get it straight. So they're always just like action news. No, that says eyewitness news here. Yep, we have Dave and Gary over here. This is Vince Leonard. I mean, this station, so many famous people came through here. Even people you know today. Andrea Mitchell from NBC News, a correspondent. She came through the station. Tom Snyder came through the station. Mike Douglas. I mean, a lot of famous people. We did soap operas. We did children's shows. Right now we do over 45 hours of programming each week. We have a 4.5-hour morning newscast, half an hour noon show. We have an hour at 5, half hour at 6, a half hour at 10, and a half an hour at 11. So it's not like the old days where we do like maybe a half an hour at 5 and 6 and call it a day. Obviously, Marcia Rose. Our queen. She always comes in to visit. Always lovely to have her. She just lives nearby here in Center City. We have Trudy Haynes. She broke the color barrier here in Philadelphia. First African-American reporter on the air. And look at those legs and that hot mini skirt there. Telling you, she could work it. And then Malcolm. Nicest man, passed away a few years ago, Malcolm Poindexter. Yeah, just a really nice man. And, the nice thing is, the KYW family, I've worked at a number of television stations. I've been here for a little over 10 years now. It really is a family because people come back, and I mean, you know, a lot of these people were, I mean, huge stars in the market when television, I mean, you had to watch the 6 o'clock news to find out what was going on. Now we have this. So I actually move a lot around in the newsroom because I'm afraid they're going to take a hologram of me and replace me. So let's just keep on moving along here. We've got our timeline here. So KYW Eyewitness News was the first station to use the Eyewitness News brand in 1965, which then moved on to New York, and then the brand was used in other stations as well. 1932, first television station in Philadelphia. 1941 was when we obtained our commercial license. 1953, first color broadcast. 1965, Eyewitness News premiered. 1977, Evening Magazine, Pat Shiraki, you know Pat. First morning newscast, 1981, in this city, we were the first. 1985, first stereo broadcast. 1989, closed caption. 1998, first HD broadcast after we moved into this facility. A few years later, in 2007, first high-definition facility in the world. This area right behind this glass is our web area. We have 6 full-time employees. CBSPhilly.com is the #2 news website in the city after Philly.com. That's because we've merged all of our news entities. KYW News Radio, CBS 3, WIP. I mean, everything's all on that one specific site we get. And as you can see, we're tracking. You see that monitor back there? On this wall over here to the right, it says 2472. Right now, there are 2,472 people on our website. And we can, sorry, we just lost a few. 2461. Get on your computers, people. So, I mean, we can watch. So, as I mentioned earlier, our folks from KYW News Radio used to work with us at 5th and Market. And then they moved away. We had a divorce for a little while. It was, I think we weren't sure where we wanted to move, and I think they had already planned where they were going. So they moved to 4th and Market for a short period of time, and now we're back together. This area here is one of our KYW News Radio studios, and you notice here, you know the KYW News jingle? There are 4 voices. This is the audio track for the 4 people. Isn't that amazing? So it's these little things that even a lot of the employees don't realize. So they're walking around, they're like, oh, I didn't know about this. This is where they do a lot of our pre-taped interview segments for KYW News Radio. We've got here one of their trophy cases. CBS Philly, CBS Channel 3 was named Outstanding News Operation twice the past 10 years. That's never ever happened before for the Murrow Association, RTNDA, Edward R. Murrow Award. And News Radio leads the pack as well. It was the second all-news radio format, began in 1965, right after 1010 wins, for those of you from New York. So it was a Group W station. So again, historically is an amazing station. All right, so this is our newsroom. It's divided by this center section here. This is the news radio, KYW News Radio side, and we've got the television side on the other side of our assignment desk. Along back here, you see the studios for KYW News Radio. We've got Studio K, Studio Y, Studio W. What happens is every half hour they bounce from studio to allow the anchors to prepare the next broadcast. But we also have live mics. So this desk over here, that's where Vince Hill does his business reports. So in television, we're not used to having things live from the actual studio, actual newsroom. So, but this is where all of our radio reporters sit. A lot of them are able to edit at their desktops. It's a little different in the television side of things, but pretty much all their work is done out here in this section here. Along the side are the edit suites for the television side of things. Now, years ago, we had about 10 editors that would work a normal, say, 9 to 5 shift. We now have 2 or 3. And that's because a lot of the video can now be cut on our desktops. So the writers are not only writing the actual news that you hear, but they're actually cutting the video as well. The edit suites are used if you're putting together more elaborate stories. And believe it or not, we can even shoot with our cell phone. During the winter storms this year, I shot all of my reports with my cell phone. I plugged in a microphone. My producer held the phone, and believe it or not, I got on TV more than the reporters did because we were able to move around quickly. We didn't have to take down the mast and set up a live shot and wait So, I mean, the wave of technology, and I think the audience is becoming much more forgiving as far as video is concerned. How many times do you put on the news and you see a Skype interview? And it's originally, years ago, it freaked us out. Now it's like, all right, well, this is just, we got to keep on going with this. So, but anyway, this is their, where all the reporters sit and their editors sit. The assignment desk, which is in the center, think of that as the heart of the news operation. That's where we listen to all the scanner traffic, we listen to the police, fire, EMS, we know what's going on in the outside world, and that's where we assign particularly breaking news stories to a particular reporter. Say, okay, reporter A is going to go with this photographer, and, you know, out you go, and that's why right now it's relatively quiet, because most of them are out in the field. Vince is live in the studio right behind us here. So we're going to go around this curve. If you want to just go down towards the assignment desk area, I'll meet you over there. So back there we've got the assignment desk, which hasn't changed really much over the years. I mean, the assignment desk, that's where you listen to all the breaking news. The key thing that I think makes our desk successful is our assignment manager is sitting over there. His name's Jeff Kolakowski. He's been the assignment manager here for at least 10 years. Native of Philadelphia, you know, because that's one of the hardest jobs. When I first started in television, I had to work on the assignment desk, and it would stress me out because you're having a conversation with someone, you're listening to the monitors, you're watching a reporter that's dilly-dallying that you need to get out on a story. So, I mean, and you really need to know the geography of the area. I mean, you can't come in here and say, we need you in Bucks County in 10 minutes for a live shot. It ain't going to happen, to get out. So this is our breaking news set. We're going to be going into the studio in just a few minutes. But our main studio, because of all the technology and all the lights and the cameras, it takes a while for everyone to get in place to go on TV. The lights take a number of minutes to be able to warm up, to get everyone, to the director and the studio folks in there. So if there is breaking news, this is the chance, this is where we're most likely going to see it. If a plane crashes, if there's a police officer shooting some kind of major emergency, in the room with the bulletproof glass, they can literally flip to here live, and we can be on TV in 10 seconds. The cameras are all robotic. Just watch yourself, because sometimes they have a tendency to move on their own. You can see the background of the newsroom. You can see this, which is our smart screen, and you can see back here, which is TOC. TOC used to be called Tape Operations Control. We don't shoot on tapes anymore. Remember, first it was film, then it was all versions of tape that kept on getting smaller. Now we actually shoot on flat computer disks. And the good thing about that is when you come back from a story, you ingest the tape. It's basically like a VCR. You pop the thing in, and within a few minutes, everyone in the newsroom can use the same video. Again, we're known as the Tiffany Network. You know, Walter Cronkite, Edward R. Murrow. Yeah, Carl? Yes. This area here is our special projects area. This is our consumer unit, our investigative unit, and our health unit works out of here. These are known as drivers in the news business. People will watch local news for a variety of things. They'll watch for weather, they'll watch for breaking news, but also the health, consumer, investigative kind of helps create the brand for the station. So this is where we work out of this area here. And also this curved wall, they just moved us in here when the radio folks moved in. If you want to come this way, and we're going to go down the hallway. The curved wall actually, it helps amplify sound. So my desk is right here on the corner, and I can sit there and they can hear every word I say at my boss's office. What? I think this was intentional. Yes, yes. Unlike the old days in television, they do not supply hair, makeup, or clothing anymore. Budget cuts. Come this way.